Whether you're a mom who longs to talk to your kids about Jesus, but you just don't know where or how to start, or maybe you're a church leader or a volunteer who wants to teach the families within your church to take their faith personally, or maybe you're someone who wants to see the church flourish in these challenging times, the D6 conference has the tools for you. Coming to Orlando and Seattle in 2025 with over 50 breakout sessions and presentations from Christian thought leaders will give you a chance to walk away with fresh ideas, new perspectives, and a renewed passion for your ministry. At D6, we don't just talk about discipleship. We provide practical tools for you to turn these desires into actions. To register or learn more, follow the link in the description or visit d6conference.com. Welcome back to the D6 Family Ministry Podcast. We believe that discipleship should not be difficult, so we're here to help you connect the dots between church and home. Together, let's guide each generation, whether related to you or not, to stand confident in their faith. I'm your host, Ron Hunter, and alongside of me, as always, is Marianne Howard, my co-host. Welcome, Marianne, to another episode.
Yes, sir. Well, today I am thrilled to talk about this topic. And so here we are. Millennials are parents. Can you believe it?
No, I cannot, because this
Millennials
describes
are parents.
our kiddos. Yes.
So, millennials, it's known data that millennials can spot a fraud. They can sniff it out instantly.
Yes, they can.
And so our interview today, she addresses authentic connections and parenting. And I just would love to know your take on having two millennial kids who are parents, and what are your thoughts about authentic connections in that?
Yeah, something I've learned, and I had some mentors early on in my parenting and in my ministry that said, if you try to make yourself the hero of every story, people are not going to listen to you. But if you'll make yourself the brunt of the joke, or, the one that you make fun of, like no pastor should ever get in the pulpit and make fun of his wife. It should never happen.
Yeah.
Now, it's okay to make fun of yourself. And I've learned that with our kiddos, that the stories they retell are the places I either acted stupid or did something that was off the wall. And I remember the same things about my dad growing up, but my parents always wanted that persona of perfection. Oh, I get it right because I've got to be that good example, that good role model. Well, I think the millennials, in all of their wonderfulness of calling out the real, it's also the ability to call themselves out. They're not holding us to a different standard than they are to themselves. And I love that consistency in there. Let's listen to Brittany as she describes millennials as parents in this short clip. And this will give you a preview to the episode.
So there is some research out there that has shown that parents are spending more time with their children. Like millennial parents are spending more time with their kids, that it requires more time and energy to parent kids today than in the past.
I just want to encourage our listeners today, as we listen to this interview, I want to ask this question. I want you to ponder this question. Number one, how are you partnering with the millennials in your church? And number two, if you are a millennial, how are you parenting as a millennial? So let's think about those two questions as we go into this interview.
Right now, I am joined by Brittany Nelson. Brittany is the creator of deeperkidmen.com, an online hub of downloadable resources made for children's ministry leaders by children's ministry leaders. She loves leading the 2nd through 3rd grade small group at her church and volunteering with her husband's youth group. Brittany, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Well, I love this topic that we're talking about because it applies directly to me.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be a little selfish and just basically ask questions that I'm curious about myself because I want to know. We're talking about partnering with millennials millennial parents. I'm a millennial. You mentioned earlier to me that you are a millennial,
Yes.
so I think this is going to go very well. If you're not a millennial and listening, please still listen.
Yeah, stay
because
tuned.
there's going to be things you need to hear on this. Now, the word millennial is almost kind of a bad word in our culture. You get online and look up millennial, you're going to find all these stereotypes. BuzzFeed has all these things just making fun of it. And when we hear millennial, sometimes we think of lazy college students.
Yeah.
We think those who are entitled. When I looked up the word millennial, the word avocado came up over and over again.
Yes, avocado toast. We love it.
That characterization, though, is a little bit dated, isn't it?
is.
Like,
It
as we
is.
sit here in 2024, who are the millennials?
Yeah, so millennials are not young adults anymore. In 2024, I know, right? It's
Yeah,
it's
thank
a
you.
hard pill to swallow. I agree, I understand. But we're grown up, right? I think we've moved past the stage of young adults and we're into regular adulting. So in 2024, most millennials, or all millennials, are going to be between the ages of 28 and 43. And so like I said, we're not young adults anymore, right? Like we need glasses to drive in the dark now, and we hurt our backs if we sneeze wrong. Like we're just normal adults these days. So we're still eating avocado toast, but we're also just feeding it to our children now because we also have kids. The majority of kids today have parents who are millennials. So we're not the lazy college students anymore, even if we might wish we are still.
I appreciate you bringing up my astigmatism and my back pain. Yeah, this is going really well. But you're right, because I teach a group that I thought were young adults, and I asked a question about what are young adults, blah, blah, blah. And someone stopped me and said, are you talking about young adults or us? I was like, well, that's the same. Oh, no.
It's not.
And so, yeah, we have kind of advanced to hopefully a little more mature type age. Is that fair to say that we
I
have
think
kind
so.
of grown up past the stereotypes?
I think yes. I think all stereotypes are going to be a little unfair to whoever they're about, right? But I think those stereotypes have influenced the way that we adults, the way that we do parent our kids, and the way that we do live as regular adults in the world instead of just young adults. So we've grown past it, but I think some of those influences are still there and impacting the way that we make decisions.
You say we've grown past it, and that you just described me with the stereotypes. Well, each generation has its own set of challenges.
Yeah.
What are some challenges that millennial parents are dealing with today that would have been foreign to past generations?
Technology. So millennials are the first generation of digital natives, which means we are the first generation to grow up with internet access, with computers in the home. We don't know a world without the internet. And then our kids now especially are even more of digital natives because it moved from just the household computer, maybe in the family basement or the family room, to the cell phones in our pockets that we can carry with us all the time. So I think technology has vastly changed the way that we parent, and it has proven to be a huge challenge for parents as we're trying to figure out how to navigate it ourselves, because I think the world is still trying to figure out what to do with the technology that we have available, while also training our kids and teaching our kids and being good stewards, being faithful parents with the way that we train our kids in technology as well.
So, true millennial test and technology. Did you ever use dial-up AOL?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Anyone else? Guys, yes, everyone that's around here? Okay. And you've been to Blockbuster and had a card
Yep,
before?
absolutely.
Okay. Well, with everything that's going on in our culture, it can be very easy to think, well, it's never been more difficult to be a parent than it is now. I hear that from people. It's never been more trying. It's never been harder to be a parent than it is right now. Do you think there's truth to that, or is that just kind of us being prisoner of the moment and unable to see the bigger picture?
This is going to sound weird, but a little bit of both. So there is some research out there that has shown that parents are spending more time with their children. Like millennial parents are spending more time with their kids, that it requires more time and energy to parent kids today than in the past. So I think there's a little bit of truth in that, but I think it's also kind of just the mentality that we have, partially because of social media and the way that we're so easily able to compare our lives and our parenting and our clean houses or not so clean houses to everyone else on the internet. And so I think a big part of what makes it so hard to parent is we see all these snapshots online of the perfect home or the perfect family, and so then we constantly feel inadequate because we're not living up to that. We don't have as clean of a house, or we're not making, this special recipe for our kids, or whatever it may be. And so that comparison game, there's a lot of pressure on millennial parents, and some of the research has even talked about almost 80% of millennial moms feel pressure to be the quote perfect parent. And so there's a lot of pressure just because of social media.
Where do you think that pressure's leading? Like, where is it obviously is dangerous.
Sure.
Where do you think that kind of leads if we're not careful?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it leads to that desire for perfection, which is like, oh, the desire for perfection leads to perfection. Like, duh, that makes sense. But I think it becomes an obsession that robs us of the joy of parenting our kids sometimes, because we want to have that picture perfect house or the picture perfect moment with our kids. And so that focus on, or that obsession with perfection, robs us of the joy of being parents and of living in the moment and of being okay with the messiness and realizing that in the messiness, that's where we learn, that's where we grow. And that's really where we're able to make connections with our kids and live life with them, have those everyday moments, and just be a family together. I also think that this drive for perfection is leading to like a self-reliance that like we have to figure it out all by ourselves, right? And we all know that's not possible. And so rather than turning to God, rather than turning to our faith or even our faith community and friends and fellow leaders, we feel like we can't ask for help because we don't want anyone to think that we don't have it all together. And so I think there's just a lot of danger in kind of pushing us toward isolation because of that pursuit of perfection.
You said something I want to go back to because it's just keeps replaying in my mind. You said it's in the messiness that we grow. And we don't like people seeing our messiness. And if we do, it's almost like we create a fabrication. You know, people, they make it look like they just woke up like this while using their, full makeup. They use their ring light and things like that. And it's to send a message that's so far from the truth. How do you see that growth happening in the messiness? Because I think we all have those messy lives. We don't want people to see it. But I think if we're so scared of it, we will miss out on that opportunity. So how have you seen that growth happen in the messiness?
Well, I think it's the vulnerability that happens, right? When we allow people into our mess and we're vulnerable with them, then that's where the relationships form. And so, discipleship, community, right? All faith formation, all of this happens in the context of community, and community can't happen without vulnerability. Yeah. And so we have to allow the messiness to be seen and to share that with others, to invite that vulnerability in that creates the foundation for solid community.
I love that. It sounds weird to say you're giving people permission to be messy or permission to not have perfect lives, but I think some people need that. They need to know, hey, it is okay that things aren't always going your way. It is okay that you didn't get that job, or your job's not making six figures, or your kids are having trouble at school. Like, that's normal.
And it's actually, that's a huge kind of characteristic of the millennial generation, is we grew up being told you can do whatever you want to, you can get a high paying job, you can be super successful. And so we've had these huge dreams like built up in our minds and built up these huge expectations. And then we get to adulthood and we're like, wait a minute, this is not anything like what y'all told me it would be, And so there's this whole kind of trend of millennials who were super, super high self-esteem as kids and young adults in high school age, and growing into adulthood, struggling with depression and struggling with anxiety and mental health issues because of those expectations that were built up so high that now the reality is hitting and we're like, wait a minute, like, this is not what I thought it would be.
Yeah, and if you have not hit that yet, try to go buy a house. Go shop for groceries, and you will soon find out that, yes, it is messy and life is not exactly like we thought it might be. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking to Brittany about how to partner with millennial parents.
Discipling kids can be a challenge. Whether it's the fast pace of life, an emotional breakdown, or just not knowing the right words to say, it seems like something is always getting in the way of talking with them about God. But Family Faith Moments, the latest parent resource from D6 Family Ministry, is here to help discipleship conversations come easier and more routinely. Twice a month, you'll receive free, practical, biblically based ideas like car seat conversations, teen talk prompts, and family link activities to create meaningful connections with your kids and teens. Family Faith Moments is designed to bring God's Word into everyday life, helping your family grow together in faith. To sign up for Family Faith Moments and begin receiving free discipleship resources for your family, click the link in the description below.
We're back and we're talking to Brittany Nelson about how we can partner with millennial parents. I want to discuss the church's role in this because we know that the church plays an important role in discipleship. Discipleship starts in the home, but the church does play a role too. What are some ways that the church can partner with millennials as they try to raise and disciple their children?
Yeah. So a few different things come to mind. The first one is creating authentic connections. Like millennials are one of the most connected generations, but also one of the loneliest. And we're seeing that happen down into the younger generations as well. But creating authentic connections and finding ways for millennials to connect with other parents, but also leaders and people who are in different generations above them as well. And so millennials, I think, have a very low tolerance for inauthenticity, right? And very low tolerance for fake. And we can sense it, we can smell it from a mile away. And so creating those authentic connections, the relationships, the community, the friendships, the fellowship, whatever term you want to give it, right? Creating that in an authentic way. Second thing, I think providing experiences. Millennials are all about the experience of something over maybe like a physical possession. And so being intentional in creating experiences for families to share together that helps them create those shared memories is going to be really valuable to a millennial parent. I'd also say embracing technology. We touched on that a little bit earlier with millennials being digital natives, but if you're not using technology to reach your millennial parents, then you are vastly missing out on a huge opportunity, whether it's texting, social media, emails, like whatever it may be. And actually, I wrote a book last year, or in 2023, about how children's ministry leaders can more effectively use digital discipleship in their ministries. It's called Time to Update, 7 areas to integrate digital discipleship into your children's ministry strategy. And there's a whole chapter in there about partnering with parents and what it looks like to allow this digital world to influence the way that we communicate with parents, the way that we encourage parents, and the way that we resource parents.
That's really cool. Well, because of how difficult parenting is, and I say this firsthand, it is very difficult. Is it possible that this partnership with the church could even help reach those outside of the church, those people who are really struggling with what's in front of them?
Yes, I think so. So millennials, one thing that I found in all the research that I've done that I think is really interesting is about 50% of millennial parents don't think religion is important in raising their children. And so obviously you have those 50% who think, yeah, it's important, right? And then there's probably different levels and layers of involvement there. But half of millennial parents, half of today's parents don't even think religion is important. And so we have to find ways to step into kind of the felt needs and the things that millennial parents say they do want help with. And then from there, I think we can build those relationships and pull them into the church. But I think the church has a huge opportunity to step into the world of millennial parents and address things that the challenges that they are dealing with, whether it's what do I do with my kids in social media? What do I do with gender identity? How do I handle, XYZ at home? Discipline issues, things like that. And so I think there's a huge opportunity for the church to step into the felt needs first and reach all millennial parents and then pulls them back into the faith conversations after those relationships are built.
Well, there may be some senior adults listening who are saying, yeah, I would love to help with what you're talking about. I think it's important, but what you're saying has gone over my head. I don't understand technology. I don't understand what's going on with millennials and what they're into, or even kids today. What role could older adults play in this partnership? Yeah.
One thing that surprised me in a lot of my research about millennials, but that I thought was really cool, was one common trend is that millennials crave mentorship. They want someone to pour into. They want someone that they can ask questions of and ask questions to and have conversations with about the things that they are struggling with in their day-to-day lives. And so I think if a senior adult is listening, we want you as a mentor, right? Like find a millennial in your church, in your community, in your everyday life, at work, whatever it may be, and just take us out to coffee. Like take us out for avocado toast, right? Can I get an amen?
Not for me. No, that's where you lose me. But
find ways to connect with a millennial in your community, in your sphere, and pour into them, right? Whether it's in a faith context or not. Millennials are looking for people of older generations that will pour into them, that want to invest in them, that want to teach them what they know. So.
And you made me think of my own church. Just a beautiful picture where I've seen retired adults who are going into the elementary schools for Good News Club and reaching the kids. They're reaching the kids and then reaching the parents. And then the parents are seeing those felt needs and coming back to the older adults. And there's like this cycle going on. Cool. And suddenly we have groups of people showing up to the church on Sunday because those older adults were willing to invest in those children, the children of millennials.
Sure.
And you said that mentorship, it's there. That people are craving that. They have needs that the world is not meeting. But through mentorship, through the church can meet. Brittany, I appreciate you sharing this. As a millennial, I need to hear this. As a millennial parent trying to figure this out and having no idea what I'm doing half the time.
Right there with you.
Yeah, this is so important. And I also want to mention again your book, Time to Update, that is available now. We often look at technology as something negative, but technology is a neutral thing. It's about how we use it.
Yes.
And you have talked about how we can actually use it for good and use it for the benefit of discipleship, something we don't think about very often. So I think that's important for people to check out and realize, we can actually use this for our benefit. We can build disciples through this. Such a great thing you shared. I thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Well, I just absolutely love Brittany's take on, she said vulnerability happens in community. And I totally agree with that. I think some of the deepest growth and the biggest growth I've seen in my own parenting and in my own faith journey and faith formation has happened right here in my living room every Sunday night with my community group. And when I'm able to confess there was a parent fail, or when I'm able to, look at, we have a multi-gen community group, and meaning the oldest in my community group is in their mid 60s and the youngest is 21, which I love. Yeah. And so when I'm in a challenge, I've got people that are older than me that have walked the road, but I also have a younger generation in my community group that's helping me understand generationally what's going on with my kids.
Yes.
And so it's just really shaped my parenting and my faith formation.
Yeah, I would challenge the listeners to think about the one item as it relates to millennials, and I would suggest that it goes even further to other generations if we acknowledge it, and that's their value over experiences, over possessions, physical possessions. And the experiences is what Deuteronomy 6 are really about. Those moments, those let's get out in nature, let's go to the zoo, let's spend time at a coffee shop, let's have a conversation in a car. Ask yourself, how many different ways can I create 5-minute, even 2-hour experiences with those around me who value them, and look at it very differently.
That's so good. And I hope you'll join us next week as we hear from Brad Rhodes from Grace Marriage. And he just plays flat out. In his interview next week, he plays flat out and he doesn't pack any punches, and he's going to let us know a couple of important things about marriage, and you are not going to want to miss it. Thank you for listening. To learn more, visit d6family.com. We look forward to seeing you next week.